Uh, to those who joined, thank you for joining. Uh, I work with the Bridge Career Services and I'll be the host today. The Bridge Career Services is a department of Bridge to Rwanda and is a professional talent placement provider dedicated to helping talent here in Rwanda to find jobs. Uh, Today we'll be talking to Credia Ruzigana Umuhire, the CEO and founder of Imanzi Creations, a company that deals in animations and writing and publishing of children's books. Uh, yes, I think we can dive right in. Credia, good evening. Thank you for joining and agreeing to do this with us.
Okay, thank you too for having me.
I think we'll start by, could you just tell us about yourself and your career journey so far, and also what inspired you to start Imanzi Creations?
Okay, thank you. And as you said, my name is Credia Umuhire. I'm the founder and CEO of Imanzi Creations. It's kind of funny because like an idea that started between high schoolers. We were talking about the stories we had when we were growing up, and then realized that some of the younger siblings they don't know about it, and there were some good stories that we wanted. But the thing is, we also realized that we had one problem in common. We all knew the heroes of the foreign heroes, let me call them like that. But
Yeah.
none of them were people we can relate to. We loved them, but we couldn't relate to them. So after high school, we're like, how about we do what we wanted? We create the stories for the children that they can look up to the characters and the heroes they can relate to. Hence, that's when the idea came from. That's what inspires us to do what we do, because we want to create those people, the children and the youth of Rwanda can relate to.
That's nice. Relating to that last point, these stories are written in Kinyarwanda, yes?
Yeah, we read them in Kinyarwanda, English, and French.
So you're fostering the children's mother tongue here in Rwanda. Why do you think this is so significant today, and what impact do you hope it will have?
Creating the stories in the mother tongue in any language makes it more stronger. And even we are thinking more of the children in rural areas, and we're like, what about them? Because we know that the language is kind of a barrier in the country right now. So we're thinking mostly to the highest number of children who we can reach to, and there is no better language we can reach to everybody than the mother tongue, hence the Kinyarwanda. We hope the impact will make it will make it more ours. They say made in Rwanda. It's good we say made in Rwanda, but if it's made in Rwanda and it's not made in the language the children can understand, the people can understand, it's not made in the materials, let's say the materials that people can have to the environment has to be all Rwandan. So the best way to start was to start with the Kinyarwanda. And that's the impact we hope to make, that everything has to be Rwandan.
Um, in doing this or in running Imanzi Creation, what has it been like doing business in Rwanda? What are some of the challenges that you have faced so far?
The challenges we have faced so far, it's like one major one. The creative industry and the people, they're not ready to just dive into the product you're providing. It's kind of new and it takes time for people to understand and be comfortable around you to hear that, because of the pricing, the equipment. Those are the major things that make our products and what we do a little bit difficult, because they expect it to be low quality because you have made it at a lower price. And if you make it higher, they'll be like, but it's not, it's made in Rwanda. So it's not from USA or UK. They're like, oh, the quality, and the pricing. So that's the challenge we're actually having.
Yes, I've heard this a lot, especially with creatives. So many people undermine their work, especially when they put a pricing. They're like, ah, come on, like since you're Rwandan, why don't you just? There's always that comment of you never hear people trying to bargain when they go to Gucci, all these designer stores or everything. But when it's dealing with Rwandan brands, then you want to bargain. So So I hear you on that.
Actually, yeah, that's the truth, though.
What exciting projects are you currently working on at the moment?
When we started, we started with fictional stories, but using the random names and the characters like Dodi. But now what we are doing is going back to the random folklores. That's what we are recreating. We have made Gunda, and now we have made it into two languages besides the Kinyarwanda. And we're going to go along with Betsen Dabaga and other characters people miss from Rwanda, and the children need to know. So that's what we are concentrating on. Oh, and also from those random folklores, we do
Yeah.
different products as we do for every books we produce. We do the merchandise and then we go, let's say, t-shirts. But for this one, we have went with puzzle games. So we take some of the scenes from the books or the animations, because Munda started as an animated story. And then one of the
Yeah.
scenes are made of a puzzle game. Yeah, so if you don't love reading or hearing a story, but you might love the puzzle game. So we are like targeting everyone, diversifying our products in every way possible.
I actually found that very creative, not just dealing in writing and publishing, but also creating other ways for people to engage with your content, with the puzzles. Actually, I wanted to
Yeah.
ask, how did you come up with the storyboard? What inspires you to come up with the stories? Is this based on stories you had as a kid growing up, or do you just become creative with a different storyboard?
For the one that we created three, Dodi, The Last Goodbye, and Genesis. Those are like um, made from zero, from scratch. So how we come up with the story is we first of all look for what a child would look for in a story. What did we miss while growing up? The character, the hero, the adventure, everything. So we put that in one book and also convey it in a language that the children can understand. We believe we're the middle generation, like the bridge to the older and the younger generation. So we try to find every generation and make the content into something they can relate to, something they would want to hear. So first of all, we put ourselves in the shoes of the clients, of the readers. What would I want to hear at 16, let's say, or at 18? I would love to hear a love story. Let's say that's so cliche. I'm sorry, but it is. That's how it is. And if I'm younger, maybe I'll go for a comic book. So we try to
Yeah,
make everything like everyone finds themselves in.
that's interesting actually. Moving on to sort of like now the career side. What advice would you give to a young runner who is completing their undergrad, say this year, and looking to venture or follow a career in the creative industry, particularly maybe in writing and publishing?
Okay, I'll first of all say you're welcome. You're very much welcome into the market and the creative industry. Also, I would honestly tell you it's not going to be easy if you want to make it as a career, because that's something it's still new. Not many rendies. The market is small, but again, it's kind of big, so it's tricky. The people are ready to hear it. The random government and other institutions are ready to invest into culture, art, everything like that. But what you have to do is you have to make what the people want, and you have to use your style. Like if you say into writing or publishing, you're going to use your style to produce something that people are looking for. So what I can tell you, have to be patient, you have to be a good listener to your clients and your public, and also to not give up, because there'll be times you'll be like, oh, this is so difficult, I'm out. So don't give up, be patient and listen to your customers.
Yeah. Actually, on that point of not giving up, did you ever face? There's this talk of sometimes our biggest naysayers, or the people who bring us down, are family, and especially with the creative industry. Like, say if I was a writer and I told my dad, oh, yes, daddy, I'm writing novels now, or I'm a writer. I don't think
Mhm.
he would truly understand. You know, our parents, it's between either a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, and that's that.
Mhm.
Uh, were some of these naysayers or some of the people who you have to battle with, or think that you have to battle with, be words from close relatives?
um, being honest, I would okay, I'm glad that my parents are not going to hear this because they will kill me probably. But when you're studying, they're not that supportive, especially in the creative industry. They're like, okay, good. But they're like, at the back, you can hear like, it's not going to work. We know she's not going to do it. Oh, they're not going to make it. But you cannot, they cannot say it out loud, but you can see it in their face. You know your parents, so you know they're like, yeah, it's a phase if you pass. So, but other parents may be supportive. With the relatives, mostly the relatives are supportive. They are supportive, I can say that, but they are not truly supportive. They're supportive, like for you to not just give up right away, but you can see it in their faces. They're like, nah, it's not going to work. So I really hope that your parents or your relatives are going to help you, but your friends can do it too. They're so supportive. But
Yeah,
also, what matters is what you believe. If you believe you're going to concentrate and make writing or publishing as your career, there's nothing that is going to stop you.
it was a powerful word. On that same angle, what is the best piece of career advice that you have ever received or learned?
Ha. Hmm. Okay. The best advice came as the truth, the harsh truth we don't want to hear. Where like most people tell you, you're going to make it, the investors are there, people are going to put your money, everything is going to be okay. But the advice I got, or what I learned was the reality is different. You may have the idea in your head and it's really brilliant, but you
Yeah,
have to do more than just being just a good idea. So mostly you may be surprised that you present it to many people and they're like, that's a very good idea, and that's just it. So the what I learned was the truth, what's out there is different from the what's in your mind. So expect anything and be ready for anything.
that's good. Actually, I feel like this is something most startups actually have to deal with, or people in the field, creative industry. I mean, I've
Mhm.
had a bit of this in the agriculture field because like now there's that whole message of like pushing the youth to agriculture. When you check out the stories, it's it's mainly positive stories that people are telling.
Mhm.
Oh, I planted this and I made this. Simple as that. But
Yeah,
when you're actually in the game, when you realize that things are not or things don't pan out
yeah.
how the media really portrays it.
Mhm. So,
Uh,
sorry, if I may add something about what you
yes,
said. Maybe if you find someone who failed, who still ask the advice from that would be very useful than the other person who has succeeded, because they never tell you about the thing that went wrong, and that's what we need as a startup or as someone who's going to start.
yeah, I even feel like people who have succeeded, like they know their faults as well. They know where they went wrong. But of course, usually it's the good side that's blown out in the media.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. My last question, and by the way, for those tuned in, you can type in your questions on the chat, or I'll give you time after the interview to just unmute and ask. But my last question is, what do you feel is missing in the creative industry today here in Rwanda? And what do you think the future is looking like for Rwanda and the rest of the continent, especially in your field?
Okay. Okay. If I start with what's missing, let's say in Rwanda, because that's mostly what I know. Um, what's missing in the creative industry is collaboration. In Rwanda, we are in the creative industry. There are not very many people, but even those few people working together is a problem. We feel like it's competition coming, it's competition growing. Someone is starting a business like mine, so we have to compete, or maybe we have a few points in common and just feel like this is competition. I'm going to be out there. Like luck in my company might be what's going to complement what you have in your company. So if we feel, I feel like if we work together, a lot of things are going to be easier. Let's say if we work, for instance, with the production houses for, let's say, books, those who print and do the printing. If we can have like the easier collaboration, the prices would be lower. So if you go with the studios, let's say while producing the animations or the animated stories, either drawn or told, that's still going to be a lot easier if you just collaborate. If I don't feel like that's competition. So that's what we lack in the country. And about how Rwanda and Africa will look in the future, I promise you, you mean in this industry or you just say globally? Because I can't predict that.
Yes, in this particular field that you're in here in Rwanda, and maybe the rest of Africa.
Okay, actually, this is something that is really, really growing, and we are lucky we're in Rwanda. First of all, we have the security. So if you have the security, you are free to work. But also, Rwanda is putting a lot of money in the creative industry, in arts, in culture, in everything that's related to arts. So we are lucky our country is supporting us, giving us the fuel to work. And in most countries in Africa, the developed ones, or in the way of the development, they have started already. The creative industry is very, very high. And I find that a collaboration between like the African countries themselves, because if maybe we produce a book of a story in, let's say, Uganda, telling about a hero in Uganda, the Ugandans are going to be interested into that book. So it's going to be a lot easier. So far, what we have done, since we can't produce all the stories for the different countries, we wanted to put our distribution. We made our distribution points as wide as possible. So far, we are working with Nigerians. So if they hear a book about Ndodi, they will just know Ndodi is from Rwanda. This is this and this, and we just know like this is what's happening in Nigeria. So I feel like it's really it has a really bright future because there are people who understand, who are ready to work. We just have to find them and that would be it.
Yeah, I agree. You actually reminded me of listening to a podcast earlier on, and they were talking about how, in terms of government supporting the industry and then the industry booming. I remember them talking about was this movie Queen of Katwe. It's a movie
Yes, the
based on a
Queen of
girl.
Culture.
Yes, and then he mentions how actually most of the movie is shot in South Africa because the South African government has a deal that allows, I think it gives like a percentage off, so it's actually cheaper for production in the states when you, I mean in the states in South Africa when you're shooting a movie and doing production there, rather than
Mm,
actually doing it back home in Uganda. Uh,
yeah,
I just need to check the facts around that, but I heard that, and if it's actually true, it's really one of the ways the government can boost industry.
yeah.
Uh, I think we can dive into the questions here. I've seen a couple come in.
Mm.
Uh, David is asking, what are you doing different from already established houses like Bakame Editions? And then, do you also publish novels for adults, or is it in your plans?
Okay, the first question, what we're doing different from the already established publishing studios is we have a different style. What we do comic style, graphic novels, animations, and from the characters and the scenes, we do different products like t-shirts, puzzle games, wristbands. We all operate under the brand name of the Child of a Thousand Hills, because we are telling the stories of the children of a thousand hills. Yeah, so that's what I think we're doing that's different. Also, the most important thing is the content we are providing. Because why Imanzi is right now operating is because it wants to fill the gap of the lack of content that we faced while growing up. The content we had was good, but was Western. Couldn't relate to that. And
Yeah,
now what we are doing is providing what the children can relate to. Mostly with modernizing it, so with the younger ones. So, and also to just write it in a way the children can find themselves in. And about the
the
second
other one
question
was,
about the
do you publish novels for adults?
okay, for adults, not really, but young adults, yes. we have a book called The Last Goodbye. I think the youth, if you're like between from 18 to let's say 25 or 30, you can and love reading, you can be an interesting story for you, David.
In that question, I think it's usually like say with first reading is bedtime stories for that kid. What actually end up summarizing
I've been sorry, it's cutting. I cannot hear you.
now that's with
Sorry.
with hobby for usually hobby no question about the can you hear me?
Um, hello
Hi,
guys. I'm
Credia.
sorry. Alvin has some. Hi.
Yeah, I guess we can still ask you questions while
Yeah.
we are waiting. Yeah, I was
I did not.
interested to.
Sorry, you're saying?
Um, I was saying that I was curious to know, like, in what specific ways does the government support creatives? In this case, your venture, is it in terms of advice? Is it in terms of working place? Is it in terms of um, tax or grants? Yeah.
The government, thank you for the question. The government supports people in the creatives like us in terms of grants mostly. There was this competition launched by Imbuto Foundation and with Atu Buhanzi. Was about art and culture, helping people in the creative industry, mostly the artists. So they were given the grant was 300 million, and each participant would get 10 million of grant if they won. And we won. We were one of the winners, so we got the 10 million. So the government really is trying to help. Also after that, I think it also made another incubation. It was called the CCI grant. There was a second one after that one for also helping people in the creative industry. So a lot of money is being put in the creative industry. I really hope I answered your question very well.
Yes, and thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think our host is back.
Yeah, sorry about that technical difficulty.
Okay.
There was another question from Benon. They're saying the creative industry has grown quite rapidly in the past 5 years. However, with Imanzi Creations dealing with storytelling in a country or region whose reading culture is still underdeveloped, have you looked into animating your work? Uh, Video storytelling. It is my understanding that almost everyone loves a good story, especially if it's animated. What do you think?
Thank you for the great idea, you know, but yeah, I think we made an animated story. Dengunda is, it started as an animated story. You can find it on our YouTube channel. It's called Imanzi Creations. And from that, we made the books of Ngunda, but we plan on making more animated stories from the Rwandan folklore.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it answers the question. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. If no one else has a question to ask, I'll then proceed to wrap up this interview. Credia, thanks a lot for doing this with us. You're really doing something amazing, telling these stories. we only wish you the best. We shall keep in touch and
Yes.
let you know of any plans or how we can collaborate in the future.
Thank you for hosting me, and thank you for everyone who attended.
Great. Have a good night, everyone. And have a good
Thank
night.
you. Yeah,
Amazing day.
yeah, you too.
Cheers.